I'm going to give you one of the best companies that's now growing faster than NVIDIA. And one of the big factors around growing to over $5 million of worth and being in the process of purchasing a multi-million-dollar property is that it's taking a lot of time, it's taking a lot of attention, it's taking a lot of awareness to recognize where you can make a lot of money and where you can actually make money for yourself. And I think that's the first big factor, is that we've got to recognize that our income has to be higher than expenses. Currently, right now, I'm down in Colombia. I'm in a hole-in-the-wall hotel room. This is one of those tax havens that people actually talk about. I would be very skeptical of moving here as far as a tax haven is concerned, but I'm here on business. And when we're thinking about making a lot of money, earning a lot of money, recognizing what we can do with this money, the first big factor is we do need to have higher income than expenses. And when we have higher income than expenses, we can then start to partition those finances off so that we can get to that emergency fund that we want to have. We can have the retirement setup that we want to have. We can have that 529 laid out. And then we can start to play around with different investments. And that's where I want to go, because NVIDIA just crossed that $4 trillion cap spot, right? So the market cap for them is $4 trillion freaking bucks. Now, one of the big crazy aspects around all of this is that there's other companies inside of their space that are actually outperforming them. And the big factor that we have to look at is that, over the last, let's say 2 to 3 years, we've seen NVIDIA just grow substantially, absolutely fantastic, right? And even from April, from their lows at 96 bucks as a stock, currently they're around 167, 170 bucks, so about a 73% increase. And so when we think through this, they have a huge market share, like absolutely enormous market share on chip building and on everything AI right now. And as they continue to grow as a company, what we are seeing is we're seeing their stock acceleration in their growth acceleration start to just slowly back off, very, very slowly. They're extremely strong as a company. But when I see this, I start to think about these companies like NVIDIA, and even to the point I would argue like a Meta, that they're becoming these crazy value stocks. And they still have a huge upside as far as growth is concerned, but they're becoming so stable as a company in markets, in industries that are also going to be so prevalent in the next 10, 20 years as far as the economy is concerned, that I actually think they're very value-based plays, okay? So I wanted to put that out there because I think that the AI powerhouse bet, right, of NVIDIA is simple, but as they've been an expensive chip provider, as they've done these things that are a little bit more pricey, there starts to be other areas that and other companies that can actually challenge, maybe not challenge them, but can lead to substantial growth. And if we have, as an individual, let's say if you have $100 and you put it into NVIDIA and it only grows by 20%, but if you put it into another company and over the next 5 years, it grows by 250, 300%, well, you're going to get greater return from the second investment. So we have to think about how we can do this as far as investments are concerned, but we've got to have those financial I's dotted and the financial T's crossed so that we can figure this out. So I wanted to bring this company to light. I've talked about it in other videos. I've mentioned how fast they're growing currently, and even looking at their April 8th, I've got some charts up here. April 8th, they were at $76. Right now, they're trading around 145 bucks. That's a 92% growth. 92% growth. And something I want to bring up here, okay, is that this company is still not, they're still down on a 12-month basis. They are still down from their 12-month peak, which was essentially a fake out. So they're growing faster than NVIDIA, and their year-to-date performance continues to chip away. And on top of this, it's really just showing their recent recovery, and also the speculation and the fact that everybody is impressed by some of their new products that are going to be coming out that are hitting the market here this coming fall, and that are also going to be released next, probably February of 26. So this is a long-term play. We're not looking at this one-off shot. We're looking at a company that is going to continue to grow into 28, into 29, 2028, 2029. So the forward PE. Okay, we're looking at about 37.5x on this company, right? So we're looking at 5-year average forward PE, 21.9x. So these are all things. Revenue growth is projected at 24 to 25% through 2025 and through 2026. Now, one of the big factors here is that a lot of analysts are anticipating earnings per share jumping from $1.38 to $5.71 per share, justifying a forward multiple in the freaking high teens. And even if we're looking at some of their charts, I'm looking at some of their charts based off of the last year, right? And we're looking at, let's say, earnings. I'm trying to bring up some earnings here, and we're seeing that quarter over quarter, they're starting to see an acceleration of growth, okay? We're looking at an impressive acceleration of growth. And even when we start to look at things like their financials, we can start to see their total revenue is increasing drastically. Their cash on hand is increasing. Their total debt is drastically decreasing. Their free cash flow is absolutely fantastic right now. I'm just looking at all these different stats. And it's like you start to think through their market cap right now, okay, is at $237 billion. Okay, that's their current market cap. NVIDIA is a $4 trillion market cap. Okay, so we know that this company, if you're looking at the total addressable market, it's in a space that it has an insane upside, like absolutely insane, just based off of the potential market cap that the company could be getting. And so I think that that's like a very, very key factor. And then when we're looking at, I'm looking at here like 7 points, looking at all the different quarterly revenues going on. And right now, if we're looking at even from this point last year, quarter to quarter comparisons, this company is absolutely slaughtering it. And so when we start to break this down even further, right, this company is AMD, Advanced Micro Devices. And one of the big factors that we have to factor in is that even if, this is a crazy stat that I wanted to bring up, is that if we look at, in a unique comparison, I put this together where I'd say, what if AMD gets to $400 by 2027, okay? Now, Bitcoin 2027 is probably going to be higher than $200,000, but I just put it there around 200K. It might even get there by the end of this year. That would be an 81% growth for Bitcoin. From AMD, $76 in April to $145 right now. Again, 91.8, 92% growth. AMD, $76 in April of 25 to $400 as a projection by 2027. You know, they're running out, they're bringing out MI350s, MI400s. Lisa Su, who's their CEO, even said that when they release MI400, that's going to be performing at 10x the speed of the new MI350s. So, and you're looking at that market cap, NVIDIA's got $4 trillion of their market cap, right? Whereas AMD sits at 236, something like that. 236 is, I think, what we were talking about, and you start to recognize like the growth potential is absolutely insane. And so AMD has actually, in the short term, even outpaced Bitcoin between April and right now. And if AMD reaches $400 by 2027, it would grow over 5 times from its April lows. And this projection, obviously this is going to be extremely high, like very, very high. But let's just say if it gets to around that $400 stock number, right? Then we're looking at probably a $650 to $700 billion market cap. Okay, currently 237. NVIDIA again is at 4 trillion. Sorry, 4 trillion. And if AMD hits 400, its value would nearly triple, moving it into top 15 largest global companies. So I think the biggest takeaway with all this stuff, and as I'm looking at, comparing it to, there's Broadcom above it. Intel's an absolutely worthless. I would not even touch that. But we start to see what it can do as far as chipping away at NVIDIA. And when you look at what NVIDIA is, it's more expensive. It's a much more expensive stock, okay? There's a lower upside. It is very stable. offers expensive chips. And the thing is that if AMD's new projects that they're coming out with, right, if they perform as well as everyone is saying they perform, we're going to see a lot of people flood over to the AMD space and start to really buy in, use their chips, make a lot of money off their chips, and in turn just create this self-fulfilling prophecy. And so what does this mean for a normal person? I think we have to remember, like personally for myself, we've got to make sure our emergency fund is set up as comfortably as possible. We want to make sure that we have enough cash on hand in case we want to make any specific investments. Like for us, we're purchasing this multi-million-dollar property. Okay, the next thing that I want to make sure that I do is all the Roth stuff is dialed in and executed as cleanly as possible, especially with a lot of the new tax bills from the One Beautiful Bill. We got to make sure from a business perspective that we're really making great investments in R&D because of the tax advantages from all those things. Now, after that, we can start to deploy cash instead of having it sit on the side and looking at a company like this. I can make that decision. If I want to do that, I'm going to do that. So we've got to make sure that all these things are lined up and recognize that this is in a space that is going to continue to grow very, very well. They're led by arguably the best CEO, top 10 CEO in the entire world. And so this is going to continue to flow in a positive direction for AMD. And we've got to just take this and run with it. I hope this helps somebody out there. A lot of us currently are caught up in Bitcoin. A lot of us are currently caught up in even some of the news around Tom Lee and Ethereum, which I'm going to try and make another video around stable coins and what I think that can do for that sector. But as far as like a very, very simple play, this is something that I'm going to be doing. You've got to make that risk analysis for yourself. I hope this helps somebody. Peace.